confirmation versus advice versus listening versus etc. Um, Confirmation used to drive me crazy. Not in the sense that I didn't want it, because I obviously did, but I never denied that, at least hopefully. But in the regard that if I wanted confirmation, then why was I still annoyed that I learned that I was doing it right anyways? And it's like, and I think some of you can relate to this when you hear that you're doing everything right, and that doesn't really tell you much or even anything at all. And it's like, but then how do I know how to recorrect the path, just in case I should do better? And it's like, that's when confirmation becomes a little bit obnoxious, because oh, you're doing it right. Keep going, doing what? Keep going, doing what? What am I doing right? You're doing that right. Okay, now how can I do it better? No, don't worry about it. You're doing right anyways. But it's all good though, right? But it's like that kind of stuff. Now it's good that that's happening. It's good that you actually are doing better in your life. But that's what confirmation can be a little dark sided with, you know. But confirmation is usually better than advice, in my opinion. And some people, the cliche is that listening is better than advice in many situations. But uh, confirmation can tend to be better than advice, because if you know that you're doing it right, then you can just be at peace with it. But if you have a room for improvement, that's still all the same. Advice doesn't have to be disingenuous. Advice can still be a good spot for a lot of things. Even for listening skills to be better than advice, it's like, yeah, of course that would be the case. But where advice giving comes into play is that you should be confident what you know. And for another thing, even without absolutes, as you heard from the Kyle podcast, um, Kyle Lowe's podcast I did with him, and some of the mixes I done this montage for my channel, as well as his own channel has the whole replay, by the way. You can check it out. It's one of the little podcast episodes, but it's in the life story mix as well from recent weeks, if you know where to find that. But that's the idea: is that advice giving can be a good thing. It doesn't have to be disingenuous. And where you have with listening skills, it's like, yeah, two ears, one mouth for sure, and then not so much not ever saying anything, if even as a metaphor. But do you think about listening to only understand? Because you can't always understand, right? There's differences with that. You can still make sure that you have that way to adapt to what you know and asserting what you know without being too bashful about it. So when you give advice, it's not so much you're not listening or that you're not confirming what you do know, or even contrary to that, confirming for sure what you know. But that's the idea. When you can confirm that you're doing it right, you give the advice that you can learn from yourself, because you have the gratitude to give that advice, because you know you would not have been down that part of your life yourself. So you give advice with good intentions to that point. You know you're giving that advice because that's what you would want for yourself. And finally, you listen to actually adapt what you have learned and what you have asserted bear for what was right for you. Then confirmation, advice giving, and listening all comes in hand in hand. Confirmation doesn't have to be annoying. Advice giving doesn't have to be arrogant or ignorant. And listening doesn't have to be poor or only condoned. There's a way that this works all together. So, and particularly with confirmation being annoying, by the way, one more thing about that is that when you hear you're doing something wrong, obviously room for improvement, that's the cliche of that. When you do find out that you're doing something right, it's not that you never find out why you're doing it right. It's that you can still have room to improve, because sometimes the thing you're doing right is actually wrong, right? Sometimes the thing you're doing right is wrong, so you can still correct that in itself. But confirmation is not supposed to be frustrating. If you're doing it right, try not to take it personally. Make sure that you have that confirmation for yourself on the inner world. Take care, guys.